We're all already talking. Hello, welcome everyone to the LCS post-game lobby where I'm Sjokz. I just got really awkward that I just read that. I'm Sjokz, guys, and I'm joined by, more importantly, Fnatic's Bwipo and ex-Fnatic's now Mad Lions, Araneae. Welcome, gentlemen. Congratulations, Bwipo. Great
Thank
stuff.
you.
What did it come down to from your perspective? It was the match of the week. It was a pretty hyped one.
I think the difference in mid lane was pretty substantial. I feel
Well,
like
was it the difference in mid lane or was it the camping of the mid lane by Broxa?
it's a level 1 gank, no flash, and then based on the fact he had no flash, Caps was like already communicating before the game that he wanted to play really aggressive in this matchup in the early levels, so we just made sure we could set him up there, and then we capitalized. I feel like, especially the kill on Trundle on top of it was like icing on the cake. You know, like after that, mid 2v2 is like almost unplayable for Sjokz, so. You know, I was just killing minions whilst Caps and Broxa take over the game.
I mean, were you expecting actually Yasuo to flash level 1 versus an Araneae level 1 and Sen level 1? Because it was quite interesting for me. In the moment I saw Sen there, I was like, okay, he's not going to flash.
We actually planned most of our level 1s and like most of our early game level 1 to 5 roaming and all this stuff, we actually planned.
But so it was planned that he was going to flash.
Well,
or he was going to lose half his speed.
I'm not going to give away too much, but you should notice the trinket on Shen.
Okay.
Okay, there we go.
There is actually some planning going on. Of course, like if you plays it properly and respect it, it might not work. But in this game, you saw like sometimes it does pay off.
It worked.
And well, it kind of ended the game right there, no?
So that's nice
definitely.
because it used to be, I guess, kind of a meme in the Fnatic and the death brush and whatnot. But you guys are actively working on your level 1 strategies in every single game. And you know, just to keep it interesting, that might be that you do nothing in the next game, but the mind games are on.
I mean, I think even in Spring Split, like we did a lot of cheesy level 1s with like Braum, Tristana, both taking W, jumping over walls, all this type of stuff. So I feel like most teams already are aware. Like. Even in the scouting, we noticed that one of their players was a little more safe than he normally is, because I'm pretty sure that people like pay attention. They're like, oh, we're playing against Fnatic. Let's step one bush, but like, let's move one bush further back.
You guys were wondering about the player of the game, and I can well break the suspense. It is Broxa. 47% of the votes. Nice. This is his very first player of the game award. I believe that is the split. So is that then deserved?
I mean, he was highest level in the game. Like after level 14, he was the highest level in the game. I was just like, holy moly! You know,
I mean, after what he said about Amazing in the pre-game, saying that with even his 4 old teammates, he can beat Amazing. I think he's gonna get the player of the game.
Yeah,
regardless
I was
of what he
really
does.
surprised because Broxa's usually a pretty soft-spoken guy, right? And then he went in and like, oh, you can even give me my Fnatic Academy players back. I'd still beat him. Wow. So was the fire also translated into the game in the comms?
Yeah, of course. I feel like I mean the comms in game itself. I think we were really calm and collected because again, like most of the stuff we did was planned, so we knew what was coming. Of course, it went better than expected. Getting 2 kills at 3 minutes off of a Shen roaming twice is pretty. I think it's on the better end of our games, but I feel like we knew what was going on. I was always safe in the bot lane every time Hylissang moved, and like we were always communicating like what the enemy team could do, what we could do. So I think we were really calm, really collected, and we just played the game like we should.
Yeah, great stuff. You guys are looking fantastic. I also have Deficio standing by, who I think is going to join us right now.
Come, Martin. Join us, Martin.
Was I not supposed to?
Hi, friends.
You got someone to carry your chair for you. You're such a prince.
You know, once you reach my status.
I have to give a shout out to Raik, who's a stage manager who has had to do some epic stuff. This split, he had to pull Trevor off the set last week when he was going off his rocker.
It's either him or me. I was about to do it. Got in the way.
In any case, Fnatic won, and the race for playoffs is still on, although it looks like you guys will be pretty locked in to playoffs. Let's take a look at the standings. Misfits won also today, and G2 won as well over Splice, so the top 3 is still what it was. Schalke, 6 and 5. Is that correct? No, they lost. No. They were 5 and 5.
No, they were 6 and 4.
Oh, they were 6 and 4. Sorry.
They were 6
my bad.
Yeah. We said this on the cast list towards the end. I'm sure you guys heard it when you were getting off stage. And there's like 4 groups in the EU LCS standings. Top 3, all fighting for first place, all looking really strong whenever they snowball. Middle group of Schalke, Rocket, Vitality, Splice. I think we actually might have forgotten Rocket in our little conversation there, but that's a group of teams who are likely to make playoffs.
We forgot Rocket, but because we actually think that Rocket is going to make it for sure. So we are thinking about the other 2 coming there. Or at least my point of view.
I think it's hard to call right now. Like, I feel like with those 4 teams, man, they can go either way. Only one of them will have to drop out. Because I think on the bottom, it's getting real tough for Giants and Unicorns.
It's super interesting. I want to and I need to talk about Team Vitality. Bwipo, you know about the substitution, I suspect. So Kikis came in today for Team Vitality. Team Vitality had been on an 0-2 week and a 3-game losing streak, so it hadn't been looking good at all. They played versus Giants, and yeah, they won. And Kikis was player of the game, and they turned it around. And those are a couple of things that I think are pretty rough if you're being benched as a jungler, because Vitality usually never wins when they're behind. They never come back, right? We've said this many times. They need a lead to win. Not only do they turn it around, but Kikis gets player of the game. What does that mean if you're on the bench? And we have the prime bench guy here.
I have some experience on the bench. So I think, honestly, Gilius is mostly happy. I think that in the first place, the fact that they fell behind and then came back, or I'm not sure how the game went. I believe it went like they were ahead. They were ahead. So they got ahead with him and then fell behind and then got back up. So I feel like, in general, I don't think they're proud of that game. I don't feel like it's a performance that Gilius is like sweating about, you know? Like, I don't think it's like, oh, like he was smurfing the entire game, shot calling like early, mid, late, and then just ended the game. So I feel like he's kind of comfortable. I don't know for sure, but as long as the relationship between each other is
just
healthy,
listening what Yamato said. They're just bringing one guy, test him out, and having to work with 6 members, you know? Like, that's the ideal roster that Yamato showed us, and I think that's what they're going to work on. For playoffs, having 2 players on the same role that they can be swapping in and swapping out, I think is the best thing.
I want to ask now that we have the king of subs, we have a coach. What are some of the difficulties you have to deal with as a team when you get more than 5 players? In this case here.
Egos.
Really?
How do you deal with that?
I think dealing with egos, probably not in your case or not in the other part case, I think it's pretty rough because some of the players doesn't really like to be a part or to don't play these important games or important matches. So some of the players get really, not gonna say mad, but tense or nervous about not playing it, and the bad feeling and the bad vibes it has behind the games, I think is toxic for the whole team. That's from my point of view. From his point of view, probably.
I mean, it's kind of different for us because I feel like I was always okay with letting Sjokz play, of course. Like, you know, he always
was okay letting you play.
That's my point. I was planned for 0 LCS games when I came in. So when I came as a substitute, I was not even going to play a scrim, not even going to play on stage, 0. Nobody in this room would know who I am. But Sjokz pushed for 1 scrim game for me, and then he pushed for a 2nd LCS game. So when we were locked in after beating Unicorns, I wasn't going to, I was just going to sit on the bench for the rest of the season. But Sjokz was like, I think it's better if we play him so that he's ready for playoffs. So at least 1 more LCS game, I believe, against Giants. And he actually pushed for me to play. So I'm pretty sure if you're pushing for someone to play, you're okay with him playing.
Yeah, I think there's a difference between kind of doing the right thing and knowing what's good for the team and what you think about when you're going to bed at night and when you are this competitive player, right? I think there's definitely still...
I think MSI, for example, we didn't approach that very well, and I do feel like those feelings were there for him. I do feel like that was a very stressful environment for him because he had to, obviously he came from the injury and he came back and he had to ramp up to the high level, and I was playing really well in scrims. So from that point of view, I'm pretty sure that happened. But after MSI, we got a sports psychologist, we talked about it, and honestly, right now, we're really chill.
Well, have you been bailed out by the meta? Because you didn't have to play Reckless anymore, you could both play, and all problems disappeared.
I mean, in the Reckless case, it's different, because from his point of view, I think he's a very extreme player in the sense that he will push his belief. And his belief from week 1 was, if we're going to play me, it needs to be with this style, this way, these champions, or you should just play Bwipo instead. So with that in mind, it hasn't been difficult because he was the one that just put him in, you know. He plays all the champions I don't. Just put him in.
I mean, the biggest difference with Fnatic is that the 2 players getting replaced are 2 really veterans. 2 guys that have been playing from the start of the game. Like Season 1, Season 2, Reckless and Sjokz were playing there. So after 8 seasons, obviously, you kind of need a break. But I would like to see what happens if you actually sub for someone like Caps.
I don't know
how is Caps going to feel? Well, what is he going to think?
Let's bring it back to the current case, which is Gilius. You talk about a guy who, he's not like a veteran in the sense of Reckless, but he has been playing for years and years. He has wanted to prove himself. And for me, he finally was able to prove himself, I feel like, in spring with Vitality.
Yeah.
Vitality burst onto the scene. They had their rookies. They had Gilius. They were winning left, right, and center. They then slowed down, still got to the semifinals, still got to play on the big stage. And we were looking at what is going to happen in summer. And now it's not going well. And the first thing the coach does is subs him out.
I think, so that obviously sucks if you're Gillis, but I think for now he's okay with the situation. So it's based around some of the things he's saying. I think it's truly going to suck if he actually gets replaced for good.
Yeah.
Because that's kind of the thing is you can take your player like Gillis, you can say, okay, we're gonna bench you right now. We're gonna get some fresh blood in here. We need a new guy in comms. We need something new.
Yeah.
It works for a couple of games, and then you put Gillis back in. And he finds success again, and then it's okay, and then everything is fine. The moment you keep him on the bench, or you only sub him in for one game, and they lose that game, and you sub him right back out, that's where you get your problem, because that's where you lost your starting spot. For now, he's sharing it. You haven't lost it yet. The moment you lose it, I think it's tough to bounce back.
I mean, people might wonder why we're going like so deep into this, but I think for me that comes from the fact that this was, okay, Kikis is added to the roster. Okay, he's probably not going to play. Boom, he plays immediately.
Right.
It was not like, oh, this is a preconceived plan like Yamato. No disrespect to him, but we asked him the question in the interview, and he just said, it's a system that we're trying here and there. This was just literally, he came in and he played,
sure,
right?
But
so
it's also because in Europe, we don't have a track record of using subs very often.
yeah, so I applaud it.
Which is why, of course, this whole Fnatic scenario is still so special. But most teams, I hear them talk sometimes about, 10-man roster would be insane. I can just constantly, sub in and out, scrim with each other all the time. But it never really happens. So the fact that we have more teams doing it, that's why it's special.
I mean, I'm gonna talk about two of these things. First thing, there was an old team who was playing with 6 members. There was Origin, having Expeke subbing for mid lane, top lane, support, jungle, AD carry. So he was actually the best sub ever. And then about the 10-man roster, about the 10-man roster,
Best sub worst team. What is this?
about the 10-man roster, there was one in Spain. Riders, Movistar Riders, they decided to create 10-man roster with Daylor leading the project, but it ended up not working out. It was impossible to control 5 players. One of the things were probably the ego, because obviously all the players want to play. Obviously all of the players want to have their games, their MVPs, their good games and stuff, but they could not have them. Also, if you're screaming between each other all the time, there is a moment that you know each other, you know how the other player is playing, so you kind of study them, and it's not really efficiency for you. So at the end, Riders actually decided this split to just break the 10-man roster and just go for a 6-man roster that is more logical.
That seems like the sweet spot. I mean,
It's easier at
yeah.
least. But I think also, because when I see this discussion happening in the community, people often highlight in sports, you have, big rosters, but that's physical sports, first of all, where your body can only do so much, you need breaks, so you can put in a different player. Which also why in sports, you can actually have a worse player on the bench and still use him because you're using him to give your stars a break. In esports right now, you don't need to do that. You don't need to put your star player on the bench so he can relax for a week.
I mean, that's what they do with Reckless.
I mean, there is
sure,
fatigue.
that's what they're
relaxing right
doing
now.
now.
Reckless is relaxing.
There definitely is fatigue as well,
Oh
right?
yeah, but I mean, look at the LCS. You play 2 games a week on stage. You should not need a break for that. So there's no reason for you to get a worse player on your bench just to use him from time to time to save your star. You don't have to do that like in sports. So there's a big difference in that case where esports you can just run with 5 starters, and as long as they're really good and can play different champions, you can stick to those 5.
Well, or you have a absolutely clear set of strengths, and they're both equally good and have tactical advantages when you
that's
sub
the
into
dream
one or the
scenario.
other. I mean,
yes.
that's what I think Fnatic has going right now. Be it with the meta, it's all a bit turned on its head because you're not really playing top lane champions. But
I mean, they're all just mages. I feel like I actually played a lot of the top lane mages that were viable. So like Vladimir and Swain are still the best 2, I think.
Yeah.
And these were champions that I even picked at MSI. So like I have had extensive practice throughout the split for playing them, and I feel like honestly the biggest issue with bot lane for me is I feel like you can pick any champion in the game, and if you're good enough, it will work.
you played Victor today.
So
Case in point.
I mean, I actually think Victor is one of the better ones.
But is it good or bad that you can do that in the bot lane?
I think it's good. Like, I mean, I think it's good because it's good for viewership. I think it's more enjoyable for people to see random champions like Wukong come out. Of course, this was mid lane, but again, I'm pretty sure you can play in bot. The other regions are playing Kled. Like, they're playing whatever the hell they want, and I think that's really good for entertainment. I also think it's good for people to stay interested in the game. Because I can imagine if you're playing a lane and you play for 8 years straight and it's the same meta that comes back and back and back, Gnar versus Jarvan, Gnar versus whatever, Gragas versus Sejuani, every single time over and over again, same for bot lane, you're playing Kog'Maw versus whatever. I can get that at some point you feel like your practice isn't as valuable, whereas now it's just a complete new view. Like, have you ever seen Zed bot lane? No. I'm pretty sure you could play it.
Sure.
If you're good enough at it, I'm pretty sure you can make it work.
I love
So
how
you're telling us that
defend
you're gonna
them.
play set bot lane or tomorrow or next week, right?
Of course, I'm naming champions that I'm not playing.
I just wanted to make
But
sure
there
that
are-
the set bot lane is gonna come up.
Trust me, when I say that we have practiced champions that nobody has played bot lane across the entire world, we have practiced them.
You have
There
the
are
edge.
a few very, very spicy picks. That is for sure.
Cool. Well, I'm looking forward to it. I'm also looking forward to the playoffs. It's ways away, but every game is starting to count in that regard. So, Araneae, at the beginning of the day, we asked the people, who is the real deal? We asked you guys, and now I asked you to make, well, a top 10 for
A top 10?
at the end
10.
of week 9. So, basically, who's going to make it into playoffs and who doesn't make it into playoffs. Aranea's real deal reveal. Ta-da!
Wow.
All right, so first up, Misfits
Rocket
Gaming
Falls.
#1, so nobody overtakes them. Fnatic G2 Esports. Not that interesting. Let's look at the other three. So Rocket is #4 for Araneae. What do you guys think?
There it goes.
Oh, first tell me why.
My bad. Mainly because I think the Rocket problem they have is they are, for me, kind of like a coin flip, what I said before, where Memento really need to perform well on the early game. And they're also this kind of team that can beat the top teams. They are the only team from the lower tier that they can beat top teams. The rest of the teams, I don't think Schalke, Vitality, Splice, or Unicorns can beat the top 3 teams. But Rocket, actually, they can. In some games, if Memento goes crazy early game, they can have really good start and they can beat them. So thinking about this, if Rocket is able to beat these low-tier teams, I believe they're going to end at 4th place.
Oh, guys.
See, I can see it happened, but I can also see Rocket just drop everything on the ground randomly,
Yeah.
and that's why I absolutely hate predicting them when it comes to this. But every team underneath them, like Spice got absolutely demolished today. But I still think based on players, it might be a safer bet to get in top 6.
Yeah, what do you guys think of
Over
the fact
what?
that Araneae puts Splice on 7th over some of the other teams, Bwipo?
I actually think they're very reliant on certain champions in draft. Like
100%.
Yeah.
Bumble,
this is what I
Zoe,
said.
I name two. You
Agree.
take away these champions
Agree.
and it already becomes very shaky what's going on.
Completely
You
agree.
already have no idea what's going to happen in the game. They could be hard smurfing or they're going to run it down mid. So like I feel like even Xerxes has his Trundle. That's already one of his comfort picks. I feel like Kasing has a few comfort picks on his own. I think Copy is most flexible, but I feel like if people actually just respect that instead of banning champions that are good in the meta necessarily, just like take them off their comfort picks, I think some of their players become very questionable very fast.
Yeah,
Can
we are
they
talking
still make
exactly about
playoffs?
this.
Yeah,
So, because
would you put them outside of
I put
playoffs?
Schalke #4, personally. And then underneath that, it's just a mess of so many
Like
teams.
reflex-wise, you kind of want to take out Rocket to leave in Splice, Vitality, and Schalke, like for safety, because that sounds like the logical thing to do. But you're doing Rocket
You're doing
a
that on based on
disservice.
name. Yeah, you're doing
Yes.
that based on name.
Yeah, he's doing that probably because Rocket has less fan base, so the haters are
mean-
not gonna go on him, you know.
Follow my Twitter.
At Deficio Eagle.
So you actually really think Rocket is gonna end at
No, I did not say that. I said 4th place is the one I
Okay.
struggle with.
So 4th place is gonna be Schalke.
I give Schalke 4th place.
5th place is gonna be who?
I go Splice 5. I go Rocket
Rocket.
6.
And Vitality fall out of playoffs.
Vitality 7. They should have lost to Giants today.
Yeah,
I mean, it's
they did.
possible. Like the substitution obviously shakes things up, right? Like it could work out really well, or it could go boom. And then
They
if
just
you-
don't have a
If you tank
style.
like 3 or 4 losses, then the
I-
game always
yeah.
it's always harder to make playoffs.
Like, I feel like Vitality has lost their strength. Like, again, it can be meta, it can be the fact that certain people are not performing, but like, they have to rely on team fighting every single game.
Yeah.
And it's not an advantage for them at all. I thought the game was over when Giants got the first Baron. I was like, holy moly, like, they're just winning every fight. Like, the coordination is just completely off between, you know, diving in from Vitality side. They win the game, which is important to obviously stay, you know, above Giants, but I just think based on what we've seen, like it is a coin flip among most of the teams, which is great for excitement. I just don't think Vitality, other than name-wise, is actually better than the teams around them.
So 2 more questions about that. First off, so do you guys all agree that none of the teams now at 8, 9, and 10 in this one. So the Unicorns of Love Giants and H2K, who are actually outside of the playoff conversation most of the time because they're furthest off the teams that can make it. I heard some talks about Unicorns of Love that could make it, but it's getting more difficult for them every single day.
But to be fair, like today when I was watching Unicorns, I didn't expect Exile to go that behind versus Sjokz, but I actually didn't predict that bot lane was gonna kill like 2v2 twice.
Yeah.
Like first time, okay, you don't respect Raven, but then second time you use a Morgana binding from a brush that should never ever happen on bot lane. Like you can probably don't respect that much Raven early game because Raven early game is crazy.
I mean,
Probably if you
you're
play
pro
bot
player,
lane right
right?
now.
No, I mean, you should respect Draven. Like,
Okay.
I think if there's any champion in the game that you're like, who's the scariest early game in
Draven,
bot lane, you're going to
for
say
sure.
Draven, so you should be able to see that one coming.
The second kill was the one that get me a bit like I didn't
Yeah.
understand at all. It was a random Morgana binding hitting into Rakan and then getting a second kill into Raven. I was like, okay, this game is completely over because I kind of thought that Exile could do something else on mid lane. I thought White Knight could actually be ahead on farm, but if nothing of this happened, then I feel like it's cold alone.
Oh,
versus
it
the
is.
world.
It does definitely look a bit the last 2 weeks like cold. Sadly, 1v5ing because it's just not clicking because he's doing what he's supposed to do, I guess.
Yeah.
But then the question is, well, if it's not working, should he then go for something more controlling? Should he go for a Sejuani? I don't
No. I think he needs to go crazy.
No.
He needs to go crazy.
I think he
Yeah.
literally needs to go crazy. Pick
Try
like
the Rockat
Pantheon,
approach. Yeah, pick
pick
the Rockat
Pantheon,
approach.
and start
Go.
going. Yeah.
Kill
But
some people.
that's the question I asked the guys a bit earlier as well. When things don't work for certain people, like, you know, Cold can't put the rest of the team on his back, and someone like Memento does that, right? He goes into a game, he gets 1 or 2 kills, he feeds all his lane, and is that just that his lanes are better at snowballing once they get like one advantage? Like, is Prophet great at then roaming to another lane and snowballing his advantage for him?
I mean, I think it's a combination of both. I think individually, they have like Rockat has better players than
Yeah.
UOL right now. Like, I'm not saying they're bad or whatever, but yeah, I've never been like, holy moly, you know, I can't lane against either of the bot lanes. You get my point, you know, like I just feel like, yeah, it's just tough. Because I don't think they draft necessarily to like hard snowball, which I feel like Rockat actually does. Like they like picking the Rumble, which is working out for them right now. I feel like that's actually like a staple pick that's makes snowballing easy, right? Because he pushes the wave, and either people concede the lane and then you run anywhere you want and drop your ult and you get something, or you just dive the guy. So I feel like they're drafting around that point of the idea of let's take lanes that can set up Memento, let's get something done in the early game, and I like that. I'd like you all to do that too.
So my final question about kind of the standings in general, not just your prediction, but that was Misfits Fnatic G2. Bwipo, can you tell me what?
But am I gonna read any other predictions like Deficio prediction?
No,
or
I was
we only had
casting
time
Bwipo
for
Bwipo
prediction?
yours.
Oh,
Or
I mean,
Oh, you were
There's
chilling
only-
on
We
talked about it, we
stage. I was
talked about
standing
it.
and yelling.
The point was
I don't
that
think
it
anybody's
was
going to be
just
surprised at my
discussion.
prediction. So
Yeah. What I wanted to ask
I mean,
actually.
sorry for interrupting
That's
you.
okay.
Last time,
You're the host now.
I
Get over
actually,
here.
I actually
Switch
asked.
seats,
I actually asked if Misfits is gonna play against Fnatic before the end of the season, because I think if you will be facing them, probably Fnatic will be first place. But since that's
Yeah,
not gonna happen,
that's actually true. That's a good call. Like that's the true what I said on Euphoria as well. I was like, it's not really
Great
in our hands.
podcast.
It's not in our hands.
sorry.
Oh no, that's okay. I love it when you guys just bring up topics.
I mean,
yourself.
you get
So what-
second place, and then what does it matter? Sorry.
I mean, I guess.
Now I did it.
That was on purpose, right?
A little bit. Carry on.
Can I go? I swear it has to be so interesting now. The only thing I wanted to ask is how strong is the top 3, in comparison to the rest of the entirety of the table, and how far are we starting to think ahead in terms of playoffs? Can anyone touch Misfits, Fnatic, or G2 respectively to start?
It's a tough one. Because I feel like not only do the top teams have better mastery over the best champions, so like I feel like, Misfits, like not included, but like G2 and us have really good control over the bot lane mages. We have our specific mages that you can't really ban out every game. We're going to get them eventually, and we're going to win the game, or like the lane at least, or have a good position from our laning phase in the first place. I feel like drafting is better from the top 3 teams, and I think that's a pretty big deal right now, given how hard you can punish someone in draft, especially mid lane matchup, bot lane matchup, jungle matchup. Because if anything goes badly in certain jungle matchups, the game is just boom. Like, for example, this game, Trundle into Nocturne, if the Nocturne ever gets ahead, the game ends for their laners.
Yeah.
Like, Nocturne has full pressure everywhere and just unplayable situation.
But it goes the same on the other side. If Trundle gets early game ganks.
Exactly.
And Nocturne cannot do any scuttle because he's not supposed to do.
Yeah,
he's not supposed to contest
exactly.
any single scuttle versus
Yeah.
Trundle. If your lanes are pushing, Trundle can get control of the scuttle, can get control of the river. Nocturne can. I mean, he's gonna be able to gank because he's Nocturne
Yeah.
level 6. He can do whatever he
Yeah,
wants.
yeah.
But Trundle should be actually in a good moment to just roll over the lanes.
Exactly, and that's why draft is really important, because if you get the winning lanes, you get your bad jungle matchup, getting the crabs anyway, getting ahead anyway, then the game is just really difficult. Like, for example, against Misfits, we had the Sejuani Wukong, which is like pre-6. Like, they're not even champions, you know? Like, they're minions. And then we got to level 6, got crabs, like, we got everything. So the game just ends. It was unplayable for Sjokz after
Not
a certain
always a good
stage.
thing.
Like, it was unplayable for him. And even if there are people behind him with the way we set up the gangs, like, we don't care. We'll kill him anyway.
And that's kind of the thing now with the top teams. And it's like, I feel like every draft as well, when you're casting it, you're just like, wow, these 4 champions can go to like 3 different lanes. Like, you can't really answer anything properly, or these players can just like swap around if they want to. So you combine the large champion pools with the fact that there's some individually very good players, like that for most part are a step above if you look at the rest of the league right now. And then you have a meta where macro is kind of changed a lot. It's a lot about just early game snowballing coming in. And if you then you have the best players, you have flexible drafts, and it's all about winning early game to snowball. That's a recipe for success for these top teams. It's not the, oh man, we made a mistake in the late game. It was a slow game with no kills.
Which is much more unforgiving.
Because then if you actually do make a mistake, then you can get punished really hard. But it's so hard. If you fall behind now against good teams, they are supposed to run over you.
About that macro point, Araneae this afternoon said on the start of the show that he thinks Misfits has undeniably the best macro out of all the teams in the LCS.
Yeah,
Now, you guys did beat them last.
I mean, I'm just saying, you know, but if you're giving up every crab as Trundle and Sejuani, I don't think you have very good macro.
I mean, they beat them, but how they beat them wasn't exactly
I think
macro.
Wait, isn't...
But that's the thing. I feel like macro is tango, right? They didn't want a tango. That's how I felt when I was playing this game. I am 100% serious when I say this. When I was playing against Misfits, I did not have the feeling like Misfits wanted the tango. Trundle farmed his entire jungle without showing the face in River from levels 1 till 4. If this is good early game macro or good early game planning when you're playing Trundle into Sejuani, I think maybe you just choked.
I think from what I saw,
that
was one game as well.
It was one game,
from
of
what I
course.
saw
I'm exaggerating because we won.
Season, because to
Sure.
be fair, I think the first game they played versus you, it was completely the opposite, right?
We were playing funnel, and then they invade us when their jungler was level 4 to level 7.
And then boom from you.
And then we inted. Like, trust me, when we went over this review, people were saying, if we give up this buff, the game's over. But it doesn't matter, I understand. I'm saying the second time, I feel like we played standard, we played our game, and I did not feel contested by Misfits whatsoever.
So let's remember this kind of interaction when come playoffs, if and when Fnatic
give me that best of 5 already.
Oh yeah, hell yeah, let's go right now.
I'll take it.
I'm feeling it too, actually. Because the thing is, like, that happened, but I feel like I said, I feel like it was more of a slow like they took the game too slow, and they let us.
different tune now. Oh,
No, of course not. I'm just saying, you know, like, I can imagine if you're playing as Wukong mid, you really don't know what the hell this champion does, you know? Like, do you actually realize that at level 6, Wukong Sejuani is going to take over the game 2v2? No.
I mean, that call was to snowball bot. They killed you guys bot lane, right? And
Yeah, but like that's what I was saying, that I didn't feel contested. I had a really good matchup bot. It was really tough for me to walk up to the wave, but they let me clear it over and over again. They did get that gank off once. We didn't expect it, but then they didn't capitalize on it. I feel like they missed out on the opportunity to snowball bot, which they could have. And then, our Wukong started killing people.
He did.
I mean, for me, 2 things that we have to talk about, or we should talk about, is first of all, he's talking about how good, especially he said G2 and Fnatic are right now on these champions, especially mages in bot lane. But what's gonna happen if meta switch?
Yeah,
I mean,
because at that point,
hey, we have this like pretty good AD carry player. I'm not sure if you heard of him. Like, he got MVP twice in a row now.
Yeah.
I don't know who it is.
I'm pretty sure we'll be all right.
I don't know who it is.
Okay.
But then you have also G2, where Jarnan is also known for his mages, not for his AD carries.
Exactly, but
So
that's
I actually think Also, even though you have that player, you said he win 2 MVPs in the past.
Yeah.
He's not playing on the past weeks. I'm not sure if he's playing scrims or not. Probably he is. We cannot see that. He's not playing on LCS, so I'm not sure if his level is going to be exactly the same as he was when he left.
Well,
Because that's something we
Catch
have
up pretty
We'll,
quickly.
I think
we have
we
had
can give
this
him the benefit of the
conversation a
doubt.
couple of times, and this is where we need to reach our quota of reckless. We miss you, reckless. All that. We'll see you again.
who said reckless, by the way?
Yeah,
Who
we
said
don't know
reckless?
who it was.
Oh, okay.
We might have a new sub. We don't
Yeah.
know.
Is there a new sub? Okay. And in any case, we've had this conversation a couple of times, but only time will tell. As said, 80 carry buffs a little bit at a time. Teleport changes now, and we did see a lot of 80 carries today, I have to say. But you know, there's no way to say how it definitively will change back or not. So we'll
I
have
mean,
to
I'm
check.
looking at the item buffs in the next patch where IH is cheaper, you know, the Zeal item as well. I think that's some PvE buff. Maybe
Yeah.
not fully like locked in yet, but there's a lot of great changes to a lot of the 80 carry items. I expected to see Bwipo read those patch notes and try a little
Try
bit.
a
And he's
little
like,
bit.
oh,
You should check my solo key. There's Zion there.
all right. So he wanted to take the 80 carry spot as
No,
well.
I just I think that it would just be valuable if I could play some. I think that's very
Sure, I mean,
reasonable.
you have
know,
to-
like I have no
mages
intention.
will still be viable.
Yeah, of course, that's my point. Like until mages completely disappear out of the meta, if teams have to first 3 ban mages or like draft really awkwardly because there's certain matchups they can't play because I play random champions, I feel like that's valuable. And if I can play a few 80 carries on top and perform like to a human level, you know, like I can right click on people.
Dude, that's the
then-
next level. That's the
Yeah,
next
just
level.
like because this game is a good example. You know, I didn't do anything. There were
you
4
pushed,
people on my
you
team.
pushed minions.
I killed minions. That's my
Important.
point, and
Most
I can
important
kill
thing in the
minions on Zaya too. You know, like I can just do that.
Yeah, see, so the thing that might swing it to 80 carries more than just item changes, unless they become super cheap, is just the games needs to be longer. But right now it's too easy to finish games. Like turrets are paper, you know, Baron doesn't deal any damage. So it doesn't matter if you're great on 3 items if you never get to 3 items, 80 carry or not. And that's kind of the thing I don't think is looked at right now in terms of some of the PvE changes, which means we're still going to have snowball meta. And then it doesn't matter that Jinx is getting like 10 million buffs.
One
because
thing
she
I
never
actually
gets
want to
them.
add on to people is that people don't realize is that mages don't actually have pressure against 80 carries bot lane. So 2v2 strictly, mostly dependent, like sport matchup plays a big difference. But Lucian, for example, is a champion. When enemy locks it in, I don't have a mage I can pick that will have pressure on Lucian. I think this is pretty commonly known. But the idea is that their 80 carries have lane pressure. It's just the kill pressure that the mages provide eventually drown out 80 carries for the majority of the game.
I think on one
Also,
item, almost all mages will be
the
strong.
power spike of the mages comes
Exactly.
really faster.
Yeah.
Like it's not the same that you have to build with something like Lucian, Blade of the Runkin, Cannon, and something else to be actually a good champion. Because Blade, okay, he's a fine champion. He has no range at all to do anything. So probably most of the mages can push him at that time when they have 1 item versus 1 item.
Actually, I don't think so. I actually think Lucian specifically, like that's why I named Lucian. This champion will push me in levels 1 till 18 if he wants to.
Okay, and then what can he do in a team fight?
But that's my point. I'm just saying, you know, like people are like, oh, you know, blah, 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 mages like kill people or have pressure on lane, but they really don't. Like,
I mean,
you
a
know,
lot
if
of
I'm
the bot
playing,
lane mages also just push.
some do. I mean, that's why Heimerdinger is so popular, is because
Yeah.
he's one of the guys that just pushes. You can't stop him. Like,
Exactly.
he
and
will
then
just push, and he has the power spike.
You just play to the other side of the map, you know, that's effect. It is great. I'm glad that some of the 80 carries are getting more buffs because you want a meta where, I mean, right now I think we have a meta where they both are viable. but-
absolutely.
But I'm missing some of the late game 80 carries because as a caster and as a viewer, I do miss watching a late game team fight where you set it up for 20 minutes about Uzi. You're just like, okay, what is
I knew
Uzi
it.
doing?
It was
Uzi's
coming.
doing
Yeah.
this. And then Uzi on
But the
3 items
problem
wins
is
the game.
that in, you know, not just the Call of the ELC specifically, but there's mostly not UC. It's mostly other people.
I mean, in this case, you can say reckless,
kidding.
right?
Yeah,
Sure,
Which is
yeah. I
another
mean,
way.
I
I do
loved
agree with
it when he
you.
jumped around on Tristan
I
and
do
killed
agree with
everybody.
you.
Do you actually prefer an Arden meta
No.
over
No.
this?
Let's not go that far.
I mean, that was the only time that actually Nami was a viable pick and you could play it with Arden.
Hey,
and
season
you'd be a
3,
good
she was
support,
viable, man. I think just the fact that you can have both. You want early game snowball, you want mages who can one-shot 80 carries, like Spellbind of Vladimir, just like, boop, you're dead. But you also want the 80 carry getting the 3 items, and you're like, look at this guy, he's going to
I
win
think
the
that's
game.
the sweet spot, which is, I guess, also what we would love to have in competitive, but it's
We're
so
kind of
hard.
there. I still think
we're
we're
kind of
there.
there,
But
but it is
I actually
pretty
think-
hard to get that.
Actually, I think if you watch other regions like Korea, team
Not
like
80
Genji,
carries.
like the old Samsung, they keep playing AD carries. They never played anything else than AD carries. Like Ruler never picked any kind of mages. Like they first pick Swain, and enemy team knows Swain is gonna go or mid lane or top lane, and they start banning AD carries because they know Ruler won't play a single AD carry.
So you're telling me once we get to Worlds, EU is just gonna crush them with their Heimerdinger spot lane?
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
I
well,
actually think
that was a
Heimerdinger versus a champion like Ethereal suffers a lot.
Yeah, yeah.
Because Ethereal can actually clear the towers pretty easy. He's gonna get pushed, but Ethereal
I don't
is
think
gonna
they're
farm.
suffering. I understand,
There's
but
no,
He's gonna farm up,
in a
and then at
cutoff
2
here, we
items,
just
Ethereal is
keep
really
yours.
annoying.
I mean, of course, it's Ezreal.
All right. Cool. That I would like to let you guys keep going, but
I
we
mean-
also still have a show tomorrow, and you need to go prepare as well for that for those games
apparently,
tomorrow.
yeah.
I
So
mean, he's gonna pick Victor and Wave Clear.
okay,
so-
let's take a look at who you're
Maybe.
playing. We also have
HK.
Vitality versus Roccat, by the way, our first game of the day, which I am incredibly hyped for. As
yeah.
said, Roccat kind of a coin flop team, but if they go 1-1 again, then that's good news for Vitality. But do they break the curse? Does Roccat go 2-0 and beat Vitality tomorrow?
Oh, I mean, they never do. That's the thing. But I looked at all the matchups tomorrow when we did our predictions. I was
That's
like,
your job.
damn, yeah, it is true. I kind of show up and be like, oh, what's happening today? But I saw a lot of the matchups. I'm like, who am I actually predicting to win this? Especially the first two were the ones with huge question marks. I think Rocket look better. And the moment I say that, they will completely destroy themselves and just lose. And also Giants Unicorns, man, I got no clue.
Splice Misfits?
Misfits.
I mean,
No
I
chance
think
after
you're-
today.
Like I said, I think if they don't get their core picks,
Yeah.
it's going to be a relatively smooth game. But if they do, I feel like there's weakness in some. Like you can find weakness. Like for example, Alfire died level 1 to us. You know, he always walks to the same spot.
That was a great level 1.
We
though.
knew it was going to be there. You know, that's just 400 gold in our pocket.
There's also something I found interesting in Europe. That is red side. Like actually today, every single team from blue side except of SUK won.
Yeah.
Why is blue side so strong? Right now there is a lot of really strong picks, and especially the last 3 weeks or 2 weeks, Korea were always banning the same 3 champions. There was Aatrox, Taliyah, and Nocturne. So red side had pretty much no bans at all. They had to ban these 3 champions, and then blue side is the one deciding, okay, I'm gonna ban Heimer versus this guy, I'm gonna ban Rumble versus this guy, whatever you wanna ban. And then you decide the draft from blue side. So it's red side just contesting or answering with picks, pretty much. But I don't know what's going on in Europe, because I kept seeing or Nocturne or Taliyah or Aatrox open every single day. It's true that in Korea this last week, Nocturne has
Nocturne is
been
open
open
as well.
all the time right now. I guess they practice a lot versus it, and they know how to counter Nocturne with like
yeah.
tanks,
They
tanks,
just put
tanks,
Trundle
and
into
just
everything. Actually, they just
Yeah.
put Trundle into
They love
Nocturne and just
Trundle,
play the
man.
game. They just play the game.
yeah, and they just go like full tank comms, and then if Nocturne is picked, Nocturne is an assassin at all.
Yeah.
So there is a moment that he cannot kill anyone,
What's
and
your
he just
point
goes
about
inside.
EU?
My point is like I've seen every single team today letting or Taliyah, or Nocturne, or Aatrox open, and I'm
They're
not
not
a coach
drafting
on
the
LCS.
answers.
Yeah.
I'm not a coach on LCS anymore, but I don't see why this keep happening. You know,
Yeah.
like I prefer to let like a Zoe open or a Swain open over these 3 champions right now, at least for myself.
Peculiar case, the peculiar case of the blue side in Europe. We'll see tomorrow what happens, but there's more league action tonight in NELCS Academy. The action is going to be starting up with FlyQuest versus Echo Fox at midnight, and then after that we'll have the rebroadcast from everything EU LCS after the last game is finished in LA, and then tomorrow we will be back with all of these games and our guests. So thank you very much, Bwipo. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Good luck tomorrow versus H2K. Araneae on your throne, because we need to keep reminding people that we're going to Madrid, so get your tickets on
Yeah, the Ducks, mate.
eu.llesports.com/Madrid. And that's it. Sock talk. No socks. He's actually wearing tiny socks.
Can't show that much skin.
Yeah.
You can, of course you can.
Very
Not with the suit on.
fashion.
can.
All right. Well, thank you guys very much for joining us. Fresh socks every day. That's a good advice to go to sleep with. Okay. Bye, everyone. We'll see you back tomorrow for more EU LCS. Bye-bye.
To unlock the lead, of course, there's some of the patch notes on 8.14. Changes. Oh, look at this, Hansama. What are you doing? Goes in, manages for the kill. Hansama, that was beautiful. Unicorns of love are running for their lives. Yes, they got themselves a tower. Whirling Death flies there. He manages to take down Totoro. There's no sadism available, but everybody's in the melee. Blunt takes out Cadril. Lambda Spike wasn't even used. That's simply not good enough. Promiscu gets killed as well. Roccat destroy H2K.
It's on the case. Kikis puts down on Lamb's Respite once again. Steal back, look at him. He's the guy that has to carry Giants through. Jack Troll gobbles up his teammate, keeps him alive for the moment, but he will sacrifice himself and steal back. Giants now running for the hills because it's a 4v5. Kamashot flash forward. Double kill though for Attila onto the backline. He's going to fall as well. No, they'll take the kills. They'll take your life and they will take your Nexus in the end. G2, there's the TP. This is great stuff from G2. Oh, they're dead once again. It looks like G2 are well on their way back to their winning ways here. They're going to go 8-3 against Splice. Back towards his tower. Nuked cannot connect from the side. Bwipo takes down Upset. Roxa takes down Nuked up. Nom, 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 nom. Fnatic go from strength to strength to strength and look like the best team in the EU LCS.